You. There you go. Okay, Ilana Freeland. And it's great to have you back here. I hope you've been safe during this very scary and dangerous time with these fires.
Well, the fires are south of me. I'm in Olympia, Washington, and we did have ugly skies and a bit of a smoky atmosphere. A lot of people stayed inside in order not to breathe it. But basically, I was more concerned about just how much Oregon, which is just the state south of us, went through. Yes, California, of course. California is the whipping boy of the geoengineers, in my opinion. But this time they really hit Oregon, and rumors were going like 60 regarding the role of the Black Lives Matter groups that were actually acting as arsonists and starting the fires. Now, I don't know if that's true. That was on the rumor mill, and I did not pursue it because for me, the primary interest is the geoengineered fires. And those I'm very certain of. I watched closely during the 2017 fires in California, the 2018 fires in California. And I may have told you on the last show that after the Santa Rosa fires in 2017, I was contacted by a citizen group from Portugal who had been asked by the government to do data search and collection on the background of the fact that the possibility that their fire, they had extreme fires on October 13, 2017, almost identical time-wise to what happened in Santa Rosa, California, which was strange because when I went over the pages of notes sent to me about the fires in Portugal in this particular area, it did seem to me that it was the same type of geoengineered fire. And I sent them 22 pages of notes and video recommendations. I talked with Jamie Lee, who is, to me, because he lives in the Santa Rosa area of Northern California, he very much is a source for understanding what's going on with those fires. And Jamie and I put our heads together and came up with a lot of things we sent. And those were all shared with the Portuguese government. And I thought it was going to be a cover-up, a whitewash, which is how things work here. But it appears that the Portuguese government became rather incensed about what they were reading and the possibility that NATO forces had been involved in the geoengineering of the fire. So a bit of an incendiary moment occurred there post-fire in the government regarding the possibilities. And now it has sort of gone back underground, according to the one of the women that is involved in the committee. So that was very telling to me when I saw the big difference, John, was that off the coast, this is when the hurricane, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'd have to find it in my notes. A hurricane was parked off the coast of Portugal during that time. It had been coming up from the south, and it literally eventually arced its way over to Ireland. So it had tremendous winds, and those winds served to feed the flames of that fire, which was not true with the California fire. The California fire had rather odd winds. They were not normal, they were not natural, because they were coming from a direction that wind never comes from. And they would have been from the directed energy weapons, in my opinion, the directed energy weapons that were used during those operations. So I was able with Jamie Lee to listen. He actually made 100 videos. I think there's 100. It's called Paradise Lost series. And because Paradise, California, as you know, was pretty much decimated. And 38,000 people moved. And truthfully, the records of where they moved to and what happened to them are very, very sparse. So very, very suspicious. So the being able to track that particular pattern that was going on in Santa Rosa was very valuable on an international scale. And that's kind of what I want to say is that these when you're dealing with something like this, as a scientist I was talking to the other night said, he is very much anonymous and in fear, having received threats, that the fires in California were very much geoengineered. And when I compared my notes with his as to what he perceived, and he's actually down there, he lives in the Shasta area, they pretty much matched. I mean, it gives me confidence that, you know, I can sit here in Northwest, in the state of Washington, and I can do research. I can read a lot of different things, all the way from hearsay to papers and patents and et cetera. And after having written 2 books already over the last 10 years, now this third one is coming to completion, I can see the patterns. And I think that's what we have to look to, those who are interested in research and in finding for themselves how these things work. And if what I'm saying or anyone else is saying might be true, is that when you're dealing with national security issues, and national security issues means you're not going to find a lot that is published on it. It's going to be sort of, as I use the term sub rosa, it's going to be hidden. But if you study the patterns, much as a detective would, coming in on a murder scene, the weapon's not there, there's no body, to figure out from the evidence, the devil being in the details, to figure out from the evidence what kind of pattern you have going here, which can help you to discern what the nature of the beast is. That's something that we need to have more confidence in, because the truth is, I don't think you could study any of these things, and I was saying that with this PhD scientist. I don't think you could go to any university, not even Johns Hopkins, where you could actually take courses on this, because it simply does not exist yet. It is hidden. And this is, to me, part of a very small part, but a very important part of the secret space program that has been going on since John Kennedy was gotten out of the way. You know, these fires, when you begin to look at the patterns that would apply to such fires, you realize that what these are, at least in part, they're combustion experiments of using different types of chemicals and thermite and magnesium. I mean, there are all sorts of things being used to see how much bang for your buck you're going to get if you use these particular chemicals in the chemical trails that are always loosed at least 3 days in advance of any of these operations. They're really seeing how their nanotechnology that we've been experiencing without knowing it for now 20 years. They're really checking to see if they could use that nanotech for combustion. And that's, of course, when you start listening to firemen like John Lord in California, and they start describing their experiences in these fires of the absolutely inordinate heat and the sudden conflagration that just occurs out of nowhere. When you realize what they're facing, they themselves now realize that water does next to nothing. And yet there are thermite type chemicals that can actually split the water into hydrogen and oxygen and then combust them separately. So you have a whole other kind of fire. This is not a wildfire that the mainstream media, or as I like to call it, the lamestream media, constantly puts before us as if this is a wildfire, a natural fire. It's not natural in the least.